All right, peace and blessings to everybody. Oh man, I haven't had an opportunity to really do these live streams. As I mentioned to you guys before, have been dealing with some health issues, and sometimes the health issues just had me just out for a couple of weeks. My energy was low, but I stayed prayed up, stayed meditating, stayed focused, eating healthy. You know what I mean? No animal flesh. So I'm slowly but surely healing and rebuilding my body. You know what I'm saying? So happy to say I'm still here. Happy to say that I'm still in this world with my family, man. It's a beautiful thing. But yo, getting to let me check my mic. Mic check, mic check. All right, my mic seems to be working. All right, so basically what this is, I want to have a conversation, be very gentle with the conversation because I understand this conversation could be potentially this conversation could be potentially triggering. So we're going to be very easy and very gentle with the conversation. But what I want to talk about is my experience in overcoming anxiety and overcoming panic attacks. That phrase alone in and of itself could be triggering, so I'm not going to use it anymore. So anybody who watches this video, if you're looking for some kind of a toolkit or a toolbox to help you deal with it, listen to this video, watch this video. I'm going to help you find ways to prevent the situation and also to overcome having those situations. And now I'll give you a little bit of background with me. There was a time where I was dealing with very severe anxiety to the point where I was actually in a hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on. I ended up in a hospital. The evening was very hectic, so people was coming in and out of the emergency room. People were checking my blood pressure. My blood pressure was through the roof. Heartbeat was through the roof. I was dizzy. Head was hurting. I was exhausted. Didn't know what was going on. Doctor walks in, takes one look at me. He's like, "Take these pills. Take these pills and don't stop taking the pill. Just take the pill." Turns around, walks out of the room. Now, he didn't tell me what the pills were, what they were for. He just told me to take it. I took the pills, and instead of it reducing my anxiety, it increased my anxiety because the pills he gave me was something called metropolol. Metropolol slows down the heart rate. I didn't know what to expect. So when my heart rate starts to slow down, I started to freak out, and it increased my anxiety exponentially. Um, so I told myself that I wasn't going to use medication. I told myself the medication made me feel just as strange as the situation itself. So I wanted to find some kind of a way to overcome the situation. And that's what started me on my meditation journey. If you know people who meditate, who live by meditation and live by mindfulness, a lot of these individuals are individuals who had to struggle with mental health. And anxiety is definitely a severe mental health issue. Many of us who have taken upon ourselves a lifestyle of meditation and have decided to walk this path of spirituality, we've gone through hellish situations, and there's no situation that's more hellish than that. To be afraid of your own body, to be afraid of nothing. There's nothing there to trigger you. It's just something inside you just explodes with fear. I've had that experience before, but I was able to overcome it. How did I overcome it? Well, the first thing I had to do was to learn about it. I started to read about these situations and what was going on in your body. I read somewhere that these situations don't necessarily have to be permanent. So you have anxiety, you have those situations. You don't necessarily have to have them for the rest of your life. You can overcome, and it's the belief that you can overcome that helps you to actually beat it, and you'll stop. I stopped having those situations. Totally stopped. I overcame anxiety. Totally stopped having the panic attacks. Totally, completely stopped. How? Well, if I had read a different book that said this is permanent, you can't change this, the outcome would have been very different. But I read a book that said you can overcome. So I believe it was that belief that I could overcome that helped me to overcome. It was the belief that I could overcome, and that's where everything begins. Everything begins with what you believe. There's documented scientific tests that have been done, peer reviewed data that's out there to show that your belief has a lot to do with your recovery. If you're a person who has an injury, if you believe you can overcome. That increases your chances of beating whatever it is that you're going through. I've seen individuals who were injured, they were told you'll never play basketball again, you'll never ski again, you'll never swim again, you'll never compete again. And next thing you know, they're doing the exact same thing that doctors were telling them they couldn't do. Why? Because their belief is what got them through it. The belief that you can overcome can help you overcome so many things. And I know if you're dealing with anxiety, typically there's a comorbidity. I'm talking kind of fast. I apologize. Let me slow down. If you're dealing with anxiety, typically there's a comorbidity, meaning that if you have anxiety, you also have depression 9 times out of 10. Because I had depression and I had anxiety. And depression, unfortunately, sucks out your motivation, and it changes how you think. That's why they call it a mental illness, because it changes how you think to the point where you can't see reality. But you have to fight that. I know one time I was talking to somebody and telling them how meditation helped me, and they were going through depression. So they were constantly, I was like, yeah, I can show you the proof. I can show you the evidence. I'm showing them scientific studies. I'm citing my sources. And they're like, nah, but it's not going to help. Nah, nothing's going to change. And I'm like, baffled at first, but then I had to remember that depression takes away your sense of motivation. It takes away your sense of overcoming, because every day you wake up and you feel downtrodden by this illness. So there's a lot of things you can do to help yourself, but if you're not willing to put the work in, nothing's going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You're going to have to change your daily routine, and that's the second thing. First thing is you have to believe. Second thing, you have to act upon that belief. If you believe you can overcome these situations, and you believe that you could overcome the depression, and you have to start doing things to change. It's not going to change for you. And I know that you've probably heard this a million times, and it probably, you know, when people talk to you like that and you're going through depression, it sounds so condescending. And I don't mean to sound that way. When I was going through depression, a lot of people, well, I hid it very well. I hid depression very, very well. I was drunk all the time and high all the time. So I hid my depression very well. But sometimes people would see my depressed state, and people would see my depressed state and they would tell me, well, just get over it. Just, pull yourself up and you'll be okay. And I don't mean to talk to you that way, but I'm telling you that it's actually possible to make these changes. And, some very simple steps can actually help you to feel stronger and more powerful. These situations, as well as depression, as well as anxiety, make you feel powerless. And when you feel powerless, it's hard to take action. It's hard to take those steps. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do what needs to be done in order to improve your situation when you're struggling with these things that make you feel as if there's no point to even living as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. I know I've been there, but I've also overcame those things, and I can look back over those mountains and those valleys, and I can say, hey, you know what? I made it. This is how you do it. I'm waving to you from miles away. You can see me standing on top of the mountain. And I'm saying, hey, guys, this way. You're going to be okay. And you're going to be okay too. First thing is believe you can overcome. Second thing is start to make changes. Third thing, what are those changes? Well, include mindfulness into your day. Before the situation arises, there are things you can do to prevent the situation. And studies have shown, and my personal experiences have shown, before you have the situation, sit down and just meditate. Engage in mindfulness meditations for just 5 minutes. If you're going somewhere that triggers you, sit down and meditate for 5 minutes. Wake up in the morning, meditate for 5 minutes. I used to drive and just recite my affirmation every day on the way to work. So 20 minutes every day before I even got to work, I'm doing my mindfulness meditation. And after a while, any activity you engage in changes your brain. If you learn how to tie your shoe as a little kid, well, guess what? You're connecting synapses, you're connecting neurons. And so by connecting these neurons and setting up this network in your brain, or changing your network in your brain, you can learn a new skill. Same thing as an adult. You can learn new skills, and learning how to navigate around your anxiety and through your anxiety and beat your anxiety is just an issue of reconnecting certain synapses and changing your brain structure, changing your neurochemistry. And one of the things you can definitely do is include mindfulness and meditation into your daily routine before that strikes. Before the situation strikes, before the attack hits you, plan in advance. Like any person who's going to war, you're going to war with your own thoughts and with your own mental illness. And anybody who goes to war, before you go to war, you set up defense. You set up your offense, but you also set up your defense. And also, something else you can do is remain positive. Because when you start meditating and start using mindfulness to prevent the situation, prevent the attack, sometimes you might get an attack anyway. And if you're a person who's dealt with depression, you've dealt with disappointment, you've been training yourself for years to master the skill of thinking dark thoughts, then if you meditate and do everything you're supposed to do, and you still have an attack, you're going to feel like, well, what's the point? I quit. I've had that happen too. Don't stop. Keep doing it. Keep going. because you're gonna get knocked down sometimes because you're literally restructuring your brain and you're changing who you are. My son was at the park today. He's on his skates. Now, he's been learning new things and trying new things. And when you're trying new things, that at first, initially, when you try these new things, it's gonna be difficult. You're doing things your brain and body haven't done before, and he was getting really upset. He was really angry because he felt like I keep falling. I keep falling, and he didn't understand why he kept falling. He was so angry and so hurt that he kept falling. And I kept telling him, baby boy, you're trying something new. When you try something new, you're going to fall. That's life. And I know when you've been through depression, life kicks your ass every day. You feel like, why? What's the point? But I'm telling you, if you let life knock you down and you stay down, things are not going to change. Things can change. Just use these tools of meditation and mindfulness every single day. Do a guided meditation. Sit down for 5 minutes. Do positive affirmations. Do deep breathing. Calm yourself down and make your body extra calm. Make your brain extra still. So when you go into these situations, it's harder to trigger you. And eventually, you won't have to worry about it anymore. You'll overcome it because you'll restructure your brain. Something else you can do, and this is important, when you're having an attack, adrenaline and cortisol is pumping through your body. Your body can only maintain that much adrenaline for 10 minutes. So what I would do, I would get a timer. I would literally get a timer and time myself. When the attack hit, if I keep my mind focused, it's only going to last for 10 minutes. If I can sit here and be calm, it's only going to last for 10 minutes. And you'll realize once you look at that clock and you see the seconds ticking by, sometimes it won't even last for 10 full minutes. It might last 10 full minutes the first time, and then it'll be 7 minutes, then 6 minutes, and then it won't come. Because your body can only handle that much adrenaline for a short period of time anyway. So if you're patient, which is hard, I know, I'm not trying to trivialize this because I've been through it. But if you're patient and look at that clock, look at that timer, it'll go away. Your body won't hold on to all that anxiety and that adrenaline. It'll come and it'll go. It'll pass. Everything is impermanent. In Buddhism, they say everything is impermanent. Well, guess what? Even bad things are impermanent. They won't last. Permanent means last. Impermanent means that it won't last. The attack won't last. The body is not designed to be in that state for prolonged periods of time. Something else you can do, meditation also helps you to control your mind. Because when I used to have those situations, I would be triggered and then the attack would hit, but then I would think a negative thought. And then that would make the attack go for longer periods of time. And then I would think another negative thought, and then it makes it go for a longer period of time. So if you want it to go away as quickly as possible, but I know every second feels like eternity when you're in the midst of that kind of situation. But if you're able to focus your mind and control your mind and calm your mind down and focus on something or distract yourself, it'll go away sooner. It'll go away sooner. There'll be moments where I'll be all freaked out, and then my body will start to naturally calm back down because that's what your body is designed to do. When you have those high anxiety situations, your body is designed to immediately start to work its way back into homeostasis and feel relaxed again. But as my body would calm down, I would think another negative thought and be like, "Oh no!" And then it would start over again. But if I said to myself, "Okay, I can accept this. I can look at the timer. I can count. I can meditate. There's a variety of things that I can do to keep myself calm." Recently, I was at the hospital and they were taking pictures of my heart, and they had this big machine sitting on my chest, and I felt pinned down, and the anxiety started to kick in a little bit. So I said, "Okay, I got to focus my mind." So I just started to count. I just started to count. Literally, I'm just sitting there, big machine on my chest, and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, and it sounds silly, but I was able to distract myself, but also give myself an activity in my mind that helped me to not think about this situation where I felt very uncomfortable and very trapped. I hate that feeling of being trapped, but I was able to calm myself down and deal with it. And then the first time I moved and wiggled, so you have to do it again. So the second time I said, "Okay, well, this time I got it. I'll be all right." And I'm looking at my phone, watching stuff on my phone and laughing, and I was able to get through it. You know what I mean? So the tool of meditation and mindfulness, the tool of distraction. Distraction is not necessarily a bad thing. Distraction can be useful. Anything your mind does can be useful if it's used properly, right? Something else I recommend: less screen time. This looking at the screen, looking at your phone triggers anxiety in you because your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not. So if you're staring at the phone and you see all this apocalyptic stuff and all this negativity, it's going to trigger you. Your brain is going to be in a constant state of heightened anxiety. I look at my phone, I try to look at spiritual things. My sons were getting annoyed with me because I was just watching something I think is very beautiful. And I'm not a Muslim, but there's a surah out of the Quran called Surah Yusuf. And I found a video on Instagram of an old Muslim brother, dark skin, skinny, face old, but very wise looking. And he had his head wrapped and he had these blue robes on, dark blue robes on. And he's just rocking back and forth and he's just singing in his loud, powerful voice. And I'm like, man, this is beautiful. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at, and it helps me gain control over what's going in. You have to control what's going in. If you ever sit and try to meditate, you'll realize that most of your thoughts are not your own thoughts. They're just stuff that you see on the phone, on TV all day. When I meditate, sometimes I'm hearing like jingles from songs. I'm hearing jokes from TV because all the stuff I put in is just sitting there bouncing around. So if you control what you put in, because your brain is going to think thoughts no matter what. But if you control what you put in, that helps you to think happier, more calm thoughts. And also, one more thing: diet is important. I want you guys to understand that eating healthy can help you reduce your anxiety. There are certain foods that you eat. Like I've been eating a lot of fruit lately. Certain food that you eat makes you feel happier. It changes your mood because your brain is going to take whatever food you put into your body and it's going to take whatever you put in there and it's going to do what it can with it. So if you put all kinds of toxins and food with additives and preservatives, your brain is going to look at it and say, well, okay, and it's going to do what it can. Same thing, like imagine if it's dinner. Tonight I got to make dinner. I don't even think we got a whole lot. I got to run to the store. But let's just say I go into the kitchen. When I was young, we used to have this thing called ghetto goulash. You take whatever's there and you make a meal out of it. You know what I'm saying? You take whatever's there, you make a meal out of it. Well, your body does the exact same thing with the food you put in it. It takes whatever you give it and does what it can with it. Sometimes you give your body food and it can't do nothing with it but make you more anxious. It can't do nothing with it but make your stomach hurt. It can't do nothing with it but make you tired. You ever ate food and was like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted? Me and my boys, we had a conversation about that when we were young. We were like, why is it that every time we eat food, we get tired? I want to eat some food that give me a spark of energy. And so we started talking about it and we decided that we was going to give up pork. We were like, let's give up pork and let's eat fruits and vegetables and stuff. And we eat healthier food, we have a better reaction to we won't feel tired all the time. You know what I mean? When you're eating that heavy food, that greasy food, fried rice, and we used to eat a lot of Chinese food, but one time I was at a Chinese restaurant and I looked behind the counter and the Chinese people were eating Chinese food, but the food they were eating is different from the food we was eating. I went in there and I was like, yo, I want to order fried chicken and I want this and I want that. Then I looked behind the counter and I seen them and they were eating some kind of soup. But the soup was like a work of art. It was so vibrant and so colorful. I'm like, I said, yo, what's that? I want that. They're like, oh, no, that's not on the menu. That's not on the menu. But the food was so beautiful. It was all just vegetables and I think some tofu or whatever. And I'm not really a big tofu fan, but it was just a whole bunch of just natural vegetarian stuff. And it was this bright, beautiful green color in a bowl with the tofu in the middle and vegetables scattered. I'm like, this looks like a work of art. But that's what they eat. So they could work long hours and have energy. And then I'm eating this fried rice and pork and chicken wings, and I'm seeing all of that, and I'm eating all of that, putting that in my body, and I'm tired afterward. And I'm drinking beer and Chinese food, and I'm exhausted. So what you eat has a lot to do with your mood. I'm telling you from personal experience. And I know it's difficult to hear somebody like myself who says, lay off the fried food. With fried food is convenient and it's right there, especially if you're depressed. It's hard to change. You know what I mean? I struggled myself recently because I was speaking to a brother named Dr. Kokai. He was telling me if you want to recuperate and heal from all the damage that was done to your body, you got to change up your diet. I struggled with chicken addiction. I had to really focus my mind and overcome that. Thank God I think it's been like 2 months now since I had any animal flesh. So I'm doing good with the diet. I still got to give up eggs because eggs is just so quick and convenient. But I got to give that up too. But anyhow, yeah, your diet has a lot to do with it. And last but not least, don't run. I've spent years of my life running from the anxiety through the use of alcohol. I went through a little pill popping phase. I went through a little pothead phase. Just smoke salvia. Anything that I can consume to get rid of my anxiety. Anything that I can consume to make me just feel more confident and just happier, I would consume it. And then I had to like sober up. And when I started sobering up, it was hard because I had to face reality without no armor. And I literally felt bare. I felt naked. I felt exposed because I wasn't hiding behind anything anymore. It was a very uncomfortable process, but I faced that fear of looking at the world and seeing it for what it is, looking at my life and seeing it for what it is, looking at my relationships and seeing it for what it is. I looked at it and I was able to face it. Well, one time when I was having those situations, I would get those situations by going to a grocery store. There was a grocery store that I went to one time. I had one of them situations in a grocery store. So every time I went back to the grocery store to pick up groceries, that's it. I would feel it again. I would feel an attack coming on every time. And then I had to face it. I said to myself, I'm not gonna let fear dictate my life. So what I had to do is I had to reach deep down inside and grab that fire, that rebel spirit that exists in me, because I'm a rebel. I don't like following nobody's corny rules, and I'm definitely not gonna follow the dictates of fear. So I reached deep down and grabbed that rebel fire that's inside of me, and I said, I'm going to that store, that grocery store. If you're from Hartford, Connecticut, right in Windsor, there's a grocery store, a big stop and shop on Kennedy Road in Windsor. And I went in there and had an attack. And I said, I'm going back in there. I went back in there and I said, I set my timer for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Went in there, walked around, walked back out. Then I said, I'm going back in there. That felt good. Went back in there again, this time for 4 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 7 minutes. And then before you knew it, I was able to be in there without having an attack at all. But the thing that was triggering me, I said, I'm going to face it. I'm not backing down. And that's tough. It's rough, especially when you've been through all kinds of trauma. And the most traumatic thing that can happen to you is the attack itself. It gets to the point where you're literally afraid of the fear that the body expresses. Your body is expressing fear, and that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But able to deal with it, able to overcome that fear. And you can too. I'm not just talking, I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm telling you from my own personal experiences that this anxiety can be overcome, depression can be overcome, and I did it without medication. And if you're seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whoever or whatever, and you're on some kind of medication, it's okay to have a conversation and say, hey, is there anything else that I could do where I won't need the medication, where I could overcome? Because sometimes people will prescribe things for you with no end in sight. And whenever my doctor comes to me, he's like, yeah, we got these pills. The first thing I ask him is, can we get the same result with a change of diet? Because I don't want the pills. I don't like the pills. Every pill has a side effect, whether they tell you or not. Second of all, is this permanent or can I get off of it at some point? I always ask those questions. I don't have no interest in taking these pills forever. And you can have the same conversation with whoever is your caregiver. Now, they might give you an answer and they might say, well, because of your condition, you have to take the pills forever. Okay, cool. But you can ask for a second opinion. You can do your own independent research. You can have a conversation with them about easing off the medications. And also start showing them that you're going to make changes. Start showing them. And then when you start showing them that you can make changes, and start telling them, when you go to see your mental health team, and you're telling them, yeah, I was really depressed, so I stayed in the house all day. I was really depressed, so I just avoided everybody all day. But if you come to them one day and you say, I was really depressed, but I decided to go for a walk, and I met with a friend and I had some lunch, and then they start seeing these changes, then their approximation of what can be done begins to change too. Because sometimes they have to make a guess about what you can do based upon what you're doing. But if you can show them, hey, listen, things can change. I can make some changes. I can rearrange some things within myself. Then they can say, oh, you know what? Well, if he can do this, then maybe he can get off the medication. If she can do this, maybe she can get off the medication. Sometimes you got to show and prove. And once again, like I said, I'm not just somebody who's talking the talk. I'm a person who's been through it. I've been through it. So I'm not watering down the experience, and I'm not going to give you a speech about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. But I'm telling you, I've been through it myself, and I overcame. And I want you to have the same faith that you can do the same thing. Follow the steps that I put in the video. And if you see the video, share the video with somebody who you think could benefit from it. And I'm about to sign off now, but peace and blessings to all of you. If you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with mental health issues, this whole page is dedicated to that. I know sometimes I get very mystical and very spiritual, but ultimately we are in a war. I'm at war with fake medicine that's supposed to solve the problem, but that only helps you manage the problem. I'm in a war. I'm in a war against people lying to you, telling you what you can and can't do. I'm telling you from my own personal experiences what I was able to accomplish. And you can do it too. I'm not special. I'm not some wizard. I'm just a stubborn, chubby dude with a beard. If I can do it, you can do it as well. Peace and blessings to all y'all. If you catch this video, you want to throw a comment or ask some questions or ask for some further tips, go right on ahead. I'll make some more videos if anybody needs. Just let me know what y'all need and I got you. All right. Peace and blessings.